Hey guys, welcome back to Sellers Sessions. Today's guest is Brian Anderson. Brian is the chief producer over at the Prosper Show. Hey Brian, how you doing?
Doing great. Happy to be here today, talking about one of my favorite topics and with one of my favorite people, and of course, favorite audiences. So thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. So not long now, 6 weeks out, I think we are. What's the stress levels like now doing something at that scale, building that out?
Well, it's pretty high. It's actually I expect it to be higher shortly as we start to realize, there are a lot of nuances that go with putting together such a big event. But we're really happy with what we got going, and if it weren't so high, that I don't think that I think that would mean that we're probably not challenging ourselves. We have the unique COVID challenge of not having a year in between our events as we typically do. But yeah. I've got a great advisory council that it's helped me pull this off. We can talk about them in a little bit, but it's pretty considerable.
Excellent. Yeah, let's go into the advisory council because due to the sheer size of the show, because the trade show as well, and it's about content delivery, networking. It's one of the big dates in the calendar for AMS and sellers each year. I head down to Vegas because obviously they want to work hard and they like a bit of partying around that, but they come for the good content, etc. Tell us a bit more about the setup, because that's what you've got an advisory council which effectively feedback to you when you're making decisions on the direction of the brand and what you're doing, the selection of the speakers. So how does that kind of work?
Sure. I was an educator previously. So, when you're teaching a lesson, you always start out with what are the objectives? What do you want to get out of it? And that's absolutely key. I've never sold on Amazon. My background is in education. Through nonprofits and actually through school systems. And so the advisory council is key to determining, what do sellers need to know? We unlike maybe some other events that might start with, hey, we've got some connections, we know some speakers that have content knowledge, or we have some people who are sponsoring that we want to have speakers. We have our agenda before we start inviting speakers. Because we know these are the tracks, and we have 7 tracks this year. We're running 4 concurrent sessions as opposed to 3, so that's another challenge that's new, but a welcome challenge. So we can have something for everyone. But then we start inviting speakers and finding the people who can fill the positions that we want them to make sure that we cover. And of course, they're extremely helpful, not just in that, but identifying the speakers who are right for it. And if they have someone for me to talk to, whether or not the agenda is full, whether or not if they have some information that might be relevant, a perspective that might inform the content, I'll talk to whomever my advisory council says, knows their stuff, is a good seller, helps a lot of people. So part of it is, since July's show, I've had 200 phone calls with just research calls, and some of those being exclusively speaker calls. But
Now it's interesting because a lot of conferences have their verticals where they want to operate, and they go, I need someone for product sourcing, I need someone for PPC, I need someone for ranking, I need some, and then normally they then work with the speaker to discuss the topic. But it's interesting, you and your council sit down, you design exactly or very close to what you want, and then you find the people to fill those in terms of the content, so they slot in, which is interesting because obviously if you're doing something for 2 or 3 days, it's nice to know that you haven't got a lopsided event with too much in one area and not supplementing enough in the other. Right. So the COVID thing, that must have been quite tough last year, the move. Did you move it a few times? And it was then in June, July, wasn't it, the last one?
Well, we were fortunate last year. We didn't have to move the dates. We were able to go with the initial dates that we set months ahead of time, the July dates. It was 2020 that was the real trick, canceling our March 2020 show, and then rescheduling a new event, the virtual event that we did at the end of October, which wasn't ideal for seller timing being that close to Q4. But last year we were fortunate. We were out before Delta. We had more attendees. I'm not going to talk about the number, but we had more attendees in 2021 than we did in 2019.
Right.
So it was pretty. We were very fortunate. and we're optimistic about next month.
Do you know what I think by that? Because I was meant to come over and speak, and I was waiting with my bags packed for the visa that never came through.
Yeah.
I think part of that as well was lockdown, and everyone just wanted to get out and be with people as well, didn't it? So you're able to take advantage of that. That was pretty much the first show of a larger scale that anyone could get to, because of the nature of the lockdowns in different states and stuff as well.
And we're hearing, people, and obviously we're thinking about it as well. Where's COVID going to be in 6 weeks? I can say that, we were not the first. Our company's our parent company, Emerald X, runs a lot of events. I think we've got 4 in the top 20 largest events in the country. But we were the 9th event that Emerald ran in 2021. So, the prospects for us putting on next month's show are very good. What will be the big variable is, are we doing temperature checks? Are we going to have, certainly masks will be mandatory, as far as I know, but we'll be listening to all of the authorities, local, state, venue, and especially, national authorities, CDC, and so forth. So we're going to stay attuned to that, but this show is happening. So I think last year we got maybe 70% of our registrants in the last 3 weeks. So it just really built momentum, and I think people are going to look at this schedule and the fact that we have more exhibitors than ever before, and realize. I mean, already we do. Realize that it's people aren't going to hold back. We'll be cautious, but we're not going to hold back.
So to give us a rundown, it kicks off on the Sunday. Is it the 12th Sunday?
It'll kick off on the 13th. Unlike most, it's a 3-day event or 4-day event. It's supposed to be a 3-day event. The 2 conference days, the workshop days usual, except it's post conference this year. It's the Wednesday, the 16th, and then on the 13th we're going to have a Prosper Social, making a networking splash by poolside, right there at Mandalay at I think it's called the Sunlight Pool, something to that effect. But it should be a lot of fun. Just relaxed, good chance to get to know people beforehand. And if I may, we'll extend it as well, in the sense that our matchmaking app, we're using a new one this year because it has the capacity to have people log in, create their profile, even start kind of networking the week before, see who's going to be there early, so they can kind of determine their path and spend less time on site trying to figure out which booth to visit or which sellers or exhibitors they want to match up with and set up a 15-minute meeting with. And the same thing post show. So really it's a, you could say it's a much longer event, multi-week event this year.
And then obviously with the trade show on the Monday and Tuesday, the content is running in parallel Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So there are people out on the trade show, and there's obviously people in the content rooms as well. Yes.
And we'll have we have 4 different breakouts going on simultaneously. So we have we're going to hit 70 speakers. We may go to 75 speakers. I think last year we were at 50. We went from 27 sessions last year to 40. So we will have a lot more going on in conferences really than ever before.
So you got the kickoff, which is the pool thing, which will start late afternoon, early evening for a few hours. And then are you doing something on the Monday as well after?
Monday's day 1 of conference. Tuesday's day 2. That's the 14th and 15th of March. And those will be the full conference days, starting as early as 8:30 day 1, going until 5, and then open conference hours till 7. So really it's a 8:30.
That's the thing I was going to talk about, the open conference hours. So after you do it like drinks and stuff. So there's 2 networking events, official ones around the event.
And then obviously a lot of networking taking place during the day. We have as opposed to one long lunchtime for going to the exhibit hall floor, we built in two breaks. So we get a little bit more time out of it. We're shortening our transition times, so we get a lot more time. One more session, I think, about per day, and certainly more time on the floor for people to see who they want to see, learn what they want to learn.
And so what we got a mix of over those 2 days, you've got some hacks workshops as well. Your seller hacks workshops. You've got these
Seller
think
Hacks,
tanks.
yeah, Seller Hacks sessions. It should be good. It was one of the favorite last year. We resurrected it really from 2018. The it's in advance. We'll have people submitting their white hat hacks, their tips and tricks that they use. We did it in 2021 again. Where that's when we really had its renaissance, and it was a favorite. So we're going to do that again this year. Tim George is going to facilitate the second one. Ours truly, you're going to facilitate on day 2, and that's going to be based on a think tank workshop. We have a lot more structured and unstructured networking taking place. It's one of the things that was an emphasis of mine in the advisory council, to make sure we're getting people together. And the think tanks are workshops on day 1 and day 2. There are 2 on day 1, and they'll be coming up with some best practices as groups. And the seller hack session, or actually it's think tank report back seller hacks on day 2. So thank you for agreeing to participate in and co-facilitate those with me on day 1, and then emceeing those that great session that's going to kick off our Tuesday morning on an extremely cathartic note.
Yeah. So our last part on the content side, what's being done on the workshops? What have you got planned on the Wednesday on the workshops?
Sure. Well, PPC. It's the PPC is going to be a kind of a pervasive theme that's going to come up and be touched upon. But our biggest hit is Ritu Java. PPC Ninja is going to be talking about DSP, PPC, and advertising strategy. Janelle Page is back. She's presented every year. We've had a workshop. One year she did 2 on the same day. So she's going to be talking about brand loyalty. She's going to be talking about branding in its various forms. And then Chris McCabe and Leah McHugh are from e-commerce. Chris, also multi-year presenters. Don't change it if it's not broken. The widely well received events. I will also just mention that unlike last year, they're going to be more workshoppy. I mean, we didn't have 8 people sitting around a table or 10 people sitting around a table at any time, unless they chose to do so and pull up some chairs during lunch. We're going to be able to do that, we expect, this year. So people are going to be not just listening to a presentation. People are going to be conversing, COVID allowing, just having a lot more minds-on kind of activities with more the content to complement it. Yes, exactly. There's a lot of, just my, I guess my motto, the going pedagogy, if you will, for Prosper is it someone see Maxwell quotation, a wise person learns from his own mistakes. A wiser person learns from the mistakes of other person, but the wisest person learns from the successes of other people. And what a great place to hear successes at Prosper Show. It is for the established. So like as with your podcast and your following, it's not really targeting beginners. If people are coming to this because they're aspiring to get on, or they're beginners on Amazon and they're understanding everything in the sessions or each session, I haven't done my job.
Yeah.
So you're
really more intermediate to advanced level. Like I've said before, I tailor the podcast more to the advanced end of things. Yeah. You will get people that are new. There's some great content on YouTube and stuff, pick from that. But I've always focused on more the advanced stuff. And in my mind is if we focused on the advanced stuff, even if it's a little bit step away from where they are in their learning journey, they can always come back to it. Yeah, because it's advanced, right? Yeah. Once they've gained knowledge elsewhere, they can always come back around to it once they've taken those steps forward.
And you do have the disadvantage, and I learned this from some feedback we got last year when we only had 3 concurrent sessions. The disadvantage to doing more deeper dives into certain content areas, to those advanced areas, is they might have more of a limited scope of an audience that is interested in that. But going to is one of the reasons we went to 4 sessions. That and the conference is just growing. We'll be able to do more deep dives than we did last year, as opposed to trying to keep some breadth. So there was more universally germane content in each session for everyone. So we're pretty happy. That was one of our emphases for the show this year.
Cool. Let's have a chat about the trade show. Do you want to give us a bit of a layout, what to expect?
Oh, yes. And that's not really, that's my side, as you mentioned earlier, the producer director of the event. We have a sales account guy, Joe Marone, is just absolutely amazing in terms of getting people to the floor. His competence is pretty amazing. To be honest, there's Prosper sells itself. I mean, people want to see our audience. Last year we were a little bit spread out. We're trying to make it a lot more user friendly. So we're trying to have it less spread out. We're trying to provide a little bit more direction so people can plan ahead of time. Part of that is the app that I mentioned, people being able to go in and see where each booth is and what that one does, as opposed to walking up to a booth and seeing a name and some people standing there and having to have a 5-minute conversation to realize they just lost 5 minutes that they won't get back because that wasn't who they wanted to be talking to. It wasn't a fit. And then, but the other thing we have on the floor, in addition to the networking that takes place over lunch, there is the usual, very centrally located matchmaking area for people who are using the app. It's kind of like it's a matchmaking app. Match.com for professionals. Set up, find someone. It has its algorithm, so it'll match you with someone who's a fit for you. Or you can use the sort function to see, or filter function to see whom you want to speak with, whether it's based on annual revenue or people who are also resellers or exhibitors who are offering certain types. There's also an interest thing to connect with other sellers that want to do advertising. So that will be on the floor. And then we're doing something new. We're doing a speaker's corner. And the speaker's corner is like a dynamic office hours. People aren't going to sign up ahead of time and have a sit down. It'll be kind of a mingling thing. But in shortening transition times with 15 minutes in between sessions, and even if we had the 30 minutes, there's always people who are lined up to talk to our speakers. So they're not all going to get a chance to talk to them. So with select speakers, the ones that we have room for, hopefully. As many of them as possible. We're going to have a schedule where they'll be available for a certain amount of time just in the speaker's corner, and people can go in there and say, hey, I wanted to talk to you, enjoyed your thing, or I'm going to your thing, wanted to just ask you thus and so forth and the other thing, and have those conversations that they couldn't. It's part of the upping the networking opportunities that we want to offer at our show.
Yeah, cool. Is there anything else we want to cover? Obviously, we can give them the website details, where to buy tickets, etc.
I would just say, make sure everybody's. I encourage everybody to look at the workshops. It's worth the extra day at the event. They're all at an extra fee to participate, but they're well worth it. I just want to also mention, as I mentioned earlier, the think tank. Workshops. Last year we piloted that pre-conference hours. I think everybody got up at 6:30 or showed up at 6:30 in the morning just to see how it would go. Is something I learned from my education days in facilitating professional developments. Really, an opportunity for people to be in a structured networking environment, doing some peer-to-peer knowledge sharing. Those workshops are for sellers who are not also service providers. So it's pure. There's going to be no pitching. There isn't any pitching at Prosper Show anyways. Prosper comes first, or education comes first. But those tank workshops, any seller can attend those, again, provided they're not also a service provider. Last year, with that same criteria, we didn't know how it was going to go. We didn't know how it was going to go. It exceeded all expectations, not just in terms of attendance and being full without with a waiting list, but just in terms of people's feedback. It really was a favorite for people that had the privilege of going to it. So we're blowing that up, and we're going to have 4 different sessions, a little bit more of a segmented audience for each one, so people can be talking to other people, not just resellers talking to established brands, but a little bit more focused.
Cool. Just going to go through. I just pulled up the website. Just going to go through some of the speakers, if that's all right for the audience as well.
Sure.
So while I'm looking here, I'm just going to flick through. Paul Barron, Chelsea Cohen, Mina Elias is here as well. Carlos Alvarez. Who else have we got? Ritu Java, like you said. Michael Jackness as well. He's got a really good podcast. Good mate of mine. Tim Jordan, Peter Kearns, very well respected. Jana Krekic. Then we got Eddie Levine, as you said, Chris McCabe, Yoni Mazur from Gitida is there. Stephen Pope, I've done some bits and pieces with him in the past in terms of some ranking stuff. Kevin Sanderson, Amy Weiss will be there. Bernie Thompson, Destaney Wishon is a regular show, same as Brandon Young and same as Lazar Zepanich. So and that's only just a select through. I'm just reading out I know the people that would know from who's been on the show in the past, etc., etc.
And with Yoni Mazur at Gitida, it will be co-moderating one of the favorite sessions, Pioneer Panel. Looking forward to predictions for what's going to be happening in the future for Amazon tools. I just wanted to also mention he's going to be co-moderating that with Eitan Wiener, who is a founder of the event. And so we're really happy he's coming back as CEO of Gitida. And as you said, scratching the surface there. Jason Boyce, just to put this out there, one other person worth noting, best moderator I've ever seen. In 30 years in the business, just gets the greatest out of any panel that he moderates, and so very much looking forward to. I gave him 4 panels. I mean, education coming first. I'm not going to say no. I only want you to do one panel. We want to spread it around. He's the best person to do nearly every panel that I could think of. So. Yeah,
indeed. And then on the Tuesday, I'll be doing. I'm doing a rework of a lot of the A9 stuff. I've got some more material which I'll be covering along with some PPC stuff. So I'm still working on the content now.
Yeah.
So
could I say a word about that? What I really like about your session is, it's got that academic approach. It's got that scientific approach. But the problem with academia, as I've learned, in my years in education, is you can figure out how people learn. You can figure out the science and the neurology for what's the best way to teach something. But it's all theoretical. What I like about your session, what you're doing with that is you're taking that well-established, that very insightful research that's unique in the ecosystem, but you're not just presenting that so that sellers have to be relied upon themselves to extrapolate. What does this mean for my business? What should I be doing? So I like that about your session. Is like many others.
This is the thing. One of the toughest thing about that, because I've already done some A9 stuff in the past, and I had to sit down with some engineers as well, because I'm not an engineer, but most of the people that attend events are not engineers either. So I have to speak the seller's language, and it's all good reading out long words off a page, but it's irrelevant unless you can do something with it. And so I found a new way of presenting some of the current stuff and the new stuff, but in a different format, so that every part of it, when I'm talking about the hunger score and that, how it will benefit you and what you do and how that translate back. It's like a dead start in the Amazon world in terms of what the hunger score is on A9 is the same as what we call the honeymoon period. It uses the same protocol. It's just there's Amazon FBA language, and I'm able to tie all that stuff together. So I'm still working on it now, but one of the toughest, like you said, you could send a glass eye to sleep. A lot of that stuff is very, very boring and dry. So, but you have to find a way of delivering it so that people get comprehension and their eyes don't glass over, glass over. But like you, I've come from a teaching background. I used to teach audio engineering, music production, and software. And so obviously that's more exciting, record producing and stuff like that. But there's still the science needs to be put across, but it still needs to be delivered in a palatable way, and how to utilize all the equipment and understand waveforms, LFOs and frequencies and high and low pass filters. By demonstrating that stuff, what the end product can be like in the song, then you can go back to the science. So you're giving people a true picture. This is the end, but we need to take you back to the beginning. You visually learn, you write it down, and then you apply this stuff yourself. Then that retains in your long-term memory. And so that's how you'll be able to retain that information. Because at the end of the day, teaching and training people is all about comprehension. Your audience is lost unless you can find a way of getting that information across in the most clear and simplistic way.
Absolutely. And in that kind of way that's going to benefit them the most. I mean, what do they know? What do they need to know and be able to do to achieve, what we determined, as I mentioned ahead of time. What are seller needs? What do they? Well, this year it's they need to diversify their sales channels. They need to diversify their advertising strategy, and they need to figure out FBA and fulfillment. How they're going to deal with supply chain issues. That's what they need. Those are their needs. So what do they know and need to know and be able to?
And that's what your job is, to meet the needs of the people that you're serving.
Yeah.
Any final words from you before we go?
No, just make sure everybody check out the agenda. There's still some panelists being added. We're looking forward to announcing our keynote, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there, Danny. Without any,
I'll get there this time.
Yeah, good. You got three sessions, so looking forward to having you there, and as well as that amazing speaker lineup that I hope everybody will take a moment to check out at prospershow.com. Discounts are available if you know anybody who's presenting at the event. Make sure you look into how you can save on a conference pass. So. Yeah,
excellent.
I would just
you probably say no, but I always ask the guests, what's the best way of reaching you? Do you take not necessarily calls, emails if people have questions, or do you normally move it on to a team member leading up into Prosper?
Yeah, I'm moving on to a team member. If people having issues with registration, they're on the registration site. There's a click here to get help, right there. If they have a thing with marketing or I'll forward them. So check it out online. There's on our website, there's a contact us, so everybody can see who to contact. But it's not unusual for me to get emails for people wondering how to get their booth. But it's not unusual for me to know exactly to whom I should refer them. Certainly brian.anderson@emeraldx.com. Again, it's on the website. You don't need to write it down, but certainly reach out to me if you have any thoughts. We're full of speakers this year. There's an application on there if you want to do something for 2023, but most of our speakers are selected ahead of time. But added a little bit more than I thought I would, but I love talking about it. It's a great show, and I don't think I'm the only one that likes talking about it. So thank you.
Cool.
Thank
you, Brian. You're more than welcome. Guys, take care of yourself. I'll be back here again next week. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.